wake up without sleep.
Welcome to Rational Alchemy. Welcome to the table. Except today we're doing rational music, and I'm joined at the table by Roger Dinardi. Roger, welcome to the table.
Thanks for having me on.
We're going to talk about Roger's music today, and we're going to talk about 12 notes for 7 stories. Roger, give us a little bit behind the LP that you are creating.
Well, it's a 7-track, or it's a concept album based on the idea that there's only 7 stories that have ever been written, and there's only 12 notes in music. And I wrote it at a time when I was really in a tough spot, and I decided to make an album that tried to speak to everyone. So the idea that there was only 12 or only 7 stories for people to ever live through, really, I thought would be a good place to start.
Where did the idea of the concept come from? What sort of triggered it?
So I had always been a musician in the part-time, and I had always wanted to make an album, but it was just like everyone else. You put it off and you put it off, and it's second best. And then after COVID, I lost a good chunk of hearing, and I developed terrible tinnitus, and I could no longer listen to music. And for me, that was the end of the world. I had always said I'd rather be blind than deaf, and it even took, I couldn't even speak to people. I couldn't comprehend what they were saying. So things were pretty bad. Music had gotten me through some really hard times in my previous, part of life, and to lose that I might as well be done. And I decided if I was done, like how I would feel like a failure. And I decided it was that if I had never made an album. And it was a tough time for everyone. We all remember 2020 and 2021. And it's like, no matter what's happening, no matter what you're going through, according to this, there's only 7 stories ever written. So it's going to be one of these. And I decided that the most important thing now was to make an album. And that was no distractions, no nothing, because it had become that or nothing. So I slowly listened to music and just increased it by just a decibel a day. And it was almost like a stroke victim learning how to hear.
Yes.
I just decided I would relearn how to hear music, no matter how painful it was, no matter what it was. And that was what I was going to do.
It is so hard for me to understand the concept because I've never had that sort of issue with my hearing.
Oh yeah.
I really stand back and appreciate what you were able to do. It must have been hard.
Yeah, and so hidden. So
yes.
And other people don't always know what's going on. You're just kind of an idiot who can't understand the basic directions of down the hall and to the
That's
left.
Right.
So there was also and to have lost the idea of mixing and doing my own album with the ringing, because I would never know if it was there. Yeah.
Interesting. Now, through the opening titles of the show, we were listening to Voyage and Return.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that particular song.
So during this time, as I was doing the recovery, I actually discovered Alan Watts, and a lot of his recordings spoke to me. And one thing he says is, we like to say, life is a journey, not a destination, but even that's not right. That's the idea that you're moving toward this and towards that, and then you'll achieve this, and then I'll be happy and whatever. And no, actually, it's dancing. In dancing, you're not trying to get to a certain spot on the floor. You're not trying to
right.
You're just going in a great big circle. You're going to be born. You're going to die. You were dirt. You're going to be dirt again.
We're going to be paying taxes.
This whole thing is a voyage, and we are what our genetics and all that make us, and our previous experiences and how we see the world. So there's a line in there to journey eyes wide open. You can see things the way you see things, and if you think of us all as just the universe's nerves or sensors or taste buds, maybe this time you're just a bud that tastes things sour, and you'd be like, how come I'm the only one that tastes things so sour or so sweet or whatever, you know? You see how you see, and so be here. You're alive, so you're valid, and observe the world the way you observe it, and
right.
You're going back.
Well, that's the thing. People will look at art, for instance, whether it be music or whether it be fine art or whatever kind of art it is. Someone will love something, someone will hate exactly
right.
the same thing.
Exactly.
And then you've got people in the middle, and
yeah.
you know, it all depends on how you're wired.
Yeah, that's what makes it so great.
That's what makes it so great,
yeah.
yes.
It's no difference with food or any other art or painting. It's like, that's awful. It's like, really? It inspires me to...
Yeah, to me, but look...
Yeah, that's the whole purpose, you know? Like, yeah, you know, I like hearing people's feedback, but I actually a lot of times enjoy, like, when people didn't like it, because it's like, oh, that means I did a really good job of that style that you've decided you haven't liked. So many people are like, I'm this genre or that genre
right.
or this genre, and
right.
it's fine. I enjoy that.
The thing I liked about Voyage and Return was the way that you kept building.
Right.
It was very cleverly done, because you kept building and building and building, and then you'd add little things in the background.
Yes. Yeah,
I'm dying to hear this at home with my headphones on, to be honest with you.
Yes, exactly. There's most of the songs have somewhat, they like to call it ear candy.
Yes.
But early, when I first discovered music, those older recordings, the 70s and some of the 80s, those 70s recordings with the sonic landscapes that would be placed, you're absorbed into a whole other world, and you know, and that had to be in there.
That is true. And what was so fascinating about the music of the 70s was how they put it together in the studios, because they had such archaic equipment.
Yeah.
It's not like today where you can literally do everything on your computer if you wish.
Yeah, until you want to do that one thing that they did, because
that's
like,
right.
You'll be like, how did they get that sound?
How did they do it?
How did they do it? You'll read articles, I obsess about it. I actually researched like the old Electronics to rebuild some of their like pedals. And anyway, you get into it, and finally it's like recently I found out about the Abbey Road like double tape, and it's like, oh, actually there was like 5 technicians varying the voltage straight from the wall.
That's it.
While one's looping and another's looping, and I was like, well, how am I going to do that? You know, but then you try to do your best, and that's like, but it's no different than choosing a color. You know, like
right.
People like sometimes will criticize that, and I don't. It's like, how did Leonardo da Vinci get that blue? You know, how did he mix that? You know, and like how do you get that shade? And so like when you think of music, sounds as colors and textures, then it becomes such a fun path to what is that sound making that beautiful sound.
That's correct.
Yeah, and you get to get absorbed into another realm where only the beat matters.
I'll never forget watching the documentary about Pink Floyd putting together Dark Side of the Moon. At the end of them, it was all 5 of them, the engineer and the 4 Pink Floyd members, all mixing simultaneously.
Yeah.
Because it was the only way they could do it.
Right. There's no volume automation.
There was nothing like that at all. They had to do the whole thing manually.
Yeah.
That's what made the whole thing such a masterpiece, of course.
I watched Neil Young, not to get too off into music tech and everything, but I watched the Neil Young interview, and he said, oh, the first rough mix was always the best because the tape, the particles would actually start like fizzing down and calming down right after. So like the next day, it was never actually the same. And so like the rough mix on the day of the cut, on the night of the cut, was to him always his favorite.
the best
to
one.
him, it was the one that always captured it. And
that makes a lot of sense. Now, the second thing that we're going to listen to is Rags to Riches.
Yeah. Before
we listen to it, why don't you give us a little bit of the history of Rags to Riches?
So Rags to Riches, for me, it's we'd like to think of it as money, but there's so many more things than riches. And so I wrote this song. It's just dedicated to the people in my life who, even though there's been many bads, there's been many goods, and I've always prided myself on being able to tell and really know who to keep close. And sometimes it seems like you're only surrounded by people who might not be the best, but if you really look, you'll know a diamond. You can find one in this concept album. we'll be coming out of a quest, and they discovered their treasure at the end by doing their voyage.
I'm intrigued because I loved, as soon as I heard the opening of Voyage and Return, I was in love with the song already. So
Thank
I'm
you.
dying now to hear Rags to Riches. So let's listen to the song.
Thank you.
Don't know much about the nation or the world today. Don't know much about inflation or the CIA. Don't know much about the Dalai Lama, religion or God. Don't know much about quantum physics, but that's probably not odd. But I know a diamond when I find it, even when it's not shining so bright. I know a diamond when I find one, you can tell when you hold it tight. We'll make life a song, flow like a dream. If others don't see us shine, it's just fine with me. Don't know much about politics, medicine or kung fu. Don't know why, leave behind all my follow through. Don't know much about crypto or foreign diplomats. Don't know much about Wall Street lobbyists or bureaucrats.
For some very strange reason, the way the song opened very much reminded me a little bit there of a couple of John Lennon songs.
Yeah, for sure. That was definitely.
I hope I'm not insulting you.
No, that's a huge compliment. Like I love getting comparisons. It's terrific.
Because it was so clever the way that you made that first transition.
Yeah, and his post Beatles was so raw, and like that's what I really wanted it to be. I didn't want it to sound real processed and done. It was supposed to be real heartfelt, and that's just kind of how the chords sounded best. It actually has been through a few alterations, but I worked in my uncle's ukulele. Mm-hmm. He's gone on early COVID also, but he's someone that changed my life. So I really wanted to include that, and it just really lent itself to that rhythm and that backbeat.
It just worked, didn't it?
Yeah, that backbeat, like. Yeah, that Lennon, however you want to put it into words.
And the other thing I picked up fairly quickly was you got a little bit of humour in there as well, don't you?
Yeah.
I could hear you sort of slipping a few things in.
Yeah. I got a gong on the word kung fu, and it was supposed to be a big, wet, sloppy kiss of a song is how I described it to my engineer.
No, I like that.
Yeah, and the oohs and ahs, actually, I can't say enough. I've been working with Cinder Sound. They're a local studio here. They're amazing, and Kyle, he's my engineer, and he helped me out with that, and I can't say enough. I don't go that high, but he's amazing. So we did that, and I really wanted to work in my uncle's ukulele. We weren't allowed to listen to rock music growing up, and but
why not?
We were extremely religious.
Oh dear.
Yes. We weren't allowed to have dice in the house because someone could see you might be gambling. So it was pretty rough, and we won't do the sob story too long. But I had zero exposure to secular music at all. Like once I heard it through the grapevine in Burger King, and I lost my mind. I was dancing around. Rock and roll was bad. It was the demon is in you. All that hellfire, brimstone. Anyway,
was it really I heard it through the grapevine?
Yeah.
Was that really the song?
That was just one of my earliest memories of hearing rock and going crazy. I'll tell you a story about that. My ukulele was important though because he would show up for Christmas. We'd see him every few years, and all of a sudden he would play some of these pop tunes, again Beatles, 60s, 70s, whatever, and I had never heard anything like that. As far as I knew, he had wrote them. So that was where I got that first little planted seed of like there's a different life out there. To answer your earlier question, the song that changed my life. One day I'm digging through my my parents' foot chest at the foot of the bed, and deep in the bottom is the tape, and it says, "The best of the Guess Who." And so I put some headphones on, and I got my secret tape player, and I put it on, and it's the original version with the little bluesy,
Yeah.
American woman, gonna mess your mind, American woman. And then it breaks into that, da, 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 da. Oh my God. I can still do it. Every time I talk about it, I actually still, you look at them, they are literally, yup. Yeah, and so and that guitar riff, oh my goodness, and my mind exploded. I was alone in my room, and I'm just jumping around with a tennis. See, look at this. I'm jumping around with a tennis racket, and I'm just whoa. And I listened to that whole, best of, which I'm actually not a fan of compilations. I like concept albums, but man, that was an awesome one. And you go into Bus Rider and whatever, and it's what are these people even talking about? And these concepts and just the raw feel. And so that song was where this is truth. There is that guitar solo at the beginning, which I hear he actually destroyed an amp every time they took a take, because he's actually plugging the output of one into another, and then that into another. And so to do those recordings, he actually had to destroy an amp each time.
Good grief.
So yeah. Because that's another one. How do you get that sound? It's well, you buy 2 whatever amps and blow one up. So okay, there's just that truth, and there's no lying here. You can hear that this is what these people are feeling. This is what it is, and wow. And there was no looking back. How do you look back after that?
Absolutely.
Everything else.
In fact,
is
you've
boring.
only ever looked forward.
I've tried. That's the goal, because it's your potential doesn't matter much.
Right.
It's we don't measure weightlifters by measuring their biceps and whatever, and say, okay, you're this age and blah blah blah, and say, you've got the most potential to lift, so you win. That's not how it works.
That's not how it works.
No, you got to go over there and you got to lift it. So it's what it takes to stop you. Mm-hmm. And there's been times I've been pretty slowed down and got distracted, but every time it's is this what's going to stop me?
Right.
And so, yeah.
When you're actually writing a song, have you thought of the whole song all the way through, or
no.
or do you just sort of build upon it and then go, how the heck am I going to end it?
Yes and no. It's similar, but it's more simultaneous and nebulous than that. Really,
okay.
I come up with a song about every day to every other day. Mm-hmm. It sounds ridiculous, but a little bird flies over and drops them into my head. Half the time, I don't even like them. Oh man, this is annoying. But everything I see and hear rhythm and melodies in just about everything I do, and even just throughout the day, and or a little phrase will just pop into your head and it won't get out. And it kind of sings itself with a little melody you'll see that day. And then while that's happening, a lot of times it'll be a piano or a guitar that's kind of in your mind, and you can start really processing it. And I tend to write in the middle and then out, or a key line and backwards. Mm-hmm. Because it becomes more lifelike, and you can do that, and then you run into your own, limits.
Yes.
I don't consider myself a virtuoso at anything. I tongue-in-cheek joke, actually not even tongue-in-cheek. I try to be the best mediocre musician I can be. So there's nothing I do.
Hold on. Having heard your music, I don't think you can actually use the word mediocre.
Thank you. I challenge you, there is not a part in there that no person could not play with 6 months of practice.
Doesn't matter.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter because you came up with it.
Exactly. Because, and anything worth doing is worth doing poorly.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, in music world and in art, it doesn't apply to, you always do your best. But you can get into this sickness of I don't have the perfect whatever, or I don't have a good enough guitar, or I don't have a good enough amplifier, or I don't have the, and you know what? Now it's time to say that phrase. If you have the level of passion where every detail is going to bother you and it is going to be the best, then you know what? Sometimes if it's worth doing poorly. So like it became, making this album is what's going to do it. And if this is how good I can play,
Right.
then this is what's on there. Because otherwise, am I going to practice for a year and then do it? And that's how we had in that trap before.
Agreed. The next song we're going to listen to is Tragedy.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about Tragedy, and then we'll listen to the song.
This was one of the hardest songs I wrote on the album. This is really the heart of my message and what caused a lot of this. Again, for me, losing my hearing was my absolute nightmare. I literally just was a puddle in a corner, just crying.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it was, yeah. I woke up, I went to sleep. I woke up every day, like, so sad that I woke up. I was really ready to be done. And I had to write, and I had the realization that, hey, this is one of the 7 stories. Like, this deserves, and it was tempting to make a pop song of like tragedy and overcoming and blah, 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 but like, no, like sadness is real. Like, that's a real story. Some people have very sad lives, and to like skip that wouldn't have been very honest. Mm-hmm. So I wrote this, and it's actually about my hearing loss, but again, I tried to take what made it about me and tried to take that out at the end. So when you ask how I write, a lot of times I'll use personal experiences, and then you yank every I, me, everything that says like what day it was, or, you know, take it all out and leave it for everyone, because now it's everyone's story again. Just
right. It's
the filtered version of your experience. So I had to write also, you know, it's not just about whining and wallowing in your illness or your diagnosis. You know, and I've gone through a lot of mental health issues, and you know, it's so easy to fall into, I'm a blah, 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 or I'm a this or that, and whatever. And, well, now I'm deaf and I can't do it. And again, is this what's going to stop me? So I didn't want it to be whining. So I tried to write a fun-to-listen-to song about wishing the world was over.
Now, there is an oxymoron, if ever I heard one.
Well, because, yeah, it's real.
It's
but
real.
It's also temporary,
yes.
Possibly.
Yes.
But, like, you know,
yep.
you gotta do it.
So let's listen to Tragedy.
I wonder, will the sun come up tomorrow? Am I gonna breathe breath in my lungs? Will Superman come save us before the comet comes? I kinda hope not, if I won't have you to listen. I kinda hope not, I'm not sure how I'll care. Don't want tomorrow, if all I'll ever hear are the echoes that aren't there. Did James Bond stop the villain? Did some hero destroy the beam? Did a robot disarm the bomb that's aiming right at me? I kinda hope not, since I won't have you to listen. I kinda hope not, I'm not sure how I'll care. Don't want tomorrow, if all I'll ever hear are the echoes that aren't there.
You have got some very interesting transitions there.
Thank you.
That was clever, because it started off in the first couple of bars. I thought, oh, here we go, deep and dark and depressing.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden, you slammed the door in my face. Thank you very much, and took it up a notch.
Right. Yeah. Well, that was the point. Like this feeling is here and intended for the song, but also let's not just sit and cry.
Right.
Yeah. Again, a fun to listen to song about wishing things were over.
About tragedy.
Yeah. Like we all feel this way. Like this happens to everyone. And that was the core. And sorry, I still get choked up about that one.
I can understand that, because I mean that really is the one. That's probably the song that's closest to you.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the core of the album. Like no matter what it is, like, and it's been. I've had friends who've, ended their lives, and we all have, and we all would say the same thing. Hey, man, no matter what it was you needed, I would have given it to you, or anything. You could have just moved here, anything. I'd have driven across the world or across the country. I'd have done anything. Like we all have, or many of us have felt that. And when I was at that point, it was, why am I not willing to do that for myself? Mm-hmm. And so, like, to anyone out there feeling that way, and doing this, and writing this song and powering through it, I'm starting to meet the most wonderful people, and that I never would have met if I just had sat and cried about it. Like if we didn't kind of like, not so much joke about it, but like, stiff upper lip and
go for it.
Yeah, say how you feel, but don't. So anyone who's feeling that way, like, don't do that.
No.
Take that one dream that you have, make it the most important, and just see what happens before you like do one more try. Go down swinging, don't give up. So it wasn't going to be a cry fest the whole time.
Now you may find this next statement from me a little strange, but I really mean it. It was a pleasure to listen to music where I could understand the damn lyrics without reading an LP cover.
Thank you. That is two things. One, the lyrics were really important to me.
Yes.
Again, I don't consider myself a virtuoso singer, so I wanted to make, but that wasn't the point. I wanted to make a song and an album that almost anyone could sing along to.
Right.
So like, again, we're leaning into that every person thing. And then also, I've already given credit to Cinder Sound, but the help that I get from my engineer, Kyle Donovan at Cinder Sound, has like, he's helped me with my...
He's layered
Yeah,
on
because
top.
with my hearing loss, I actually can hear vocals very well here, and coming from the age that I come from, from everything from, Kurt Cobain and whatever, you mumble.
I know.
But that was okay. That was, put your own stuff on it, but I feel like we're at the time now where it's time to start saying something again. And not something like specific. Like, I went to the store on Tuesday and I got blah, 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 and I drive a blankety blank. No. Like, actually, like, let's start having artistic statements again. And it takes a lot of bravery to not just sing about, drinking tonight.
Now, Roger, before we close, I know you're halfway through producing the new song called Rebirth.
Yes.
And you wanted to put a few words out there about the song before we can even listen to it.
Yeah.
Which I think is terribly unfair of you.
Well, you have to listen to the album when it's released.
Oh, you don't think I won't be?
Yeah. Rebirth is coming after tragedy. First you'll be reborn, and then all you do another teaser, then we overcome the monster. So Rebirth is... It starts out with some social media noises, and I went through a real problem with social media. I actually disappeared for many, many years. I struggle with that. It's really hard for me. But I had a realization when I was trying to write Rebirth is, who is being reborn right now, and where is it happening? And I forget what. influencer it was, but it didn't really matter. There was this girl, actually it was a girl in the park, she was taking pictures, and I noticed she was like putting things in, and she was younger, and she was like putting products in, she was taking them in the park, and I was trapped in a small little town, and if social media existed at the time, well, it's fun to demonize it, and it's easy, and it does have its problems. This is where you can just move to another town and suddenly be a different person. You know, for the family that I came out to even release my name, Roger Dinardi, like, there will be a day where they'll find it, and they will not be happy. It will crush them, and I had to overcome that, and so. While it looks like they might just be taking selfies and doing stuff, and a lot of them are, there's actually people who are just trying to get out of some of the most awful situations you could possibly imagine. And so it can be used for good and evil, and it can be anything, it can be a lot of things. But I really felt like, and I had to do it in a very like classic rock style, because I really like the idea of how some of our people who grew up in listening to 70s music, you know, which was before my time, and grew up listening to music now, it's really fun to write a classic version on observance, on a positive observance of a new thing that many aren't getting. And I really wanted to put a positive twist on how it's not that much different than that person we used to honor that was going around selling CDs out of their car or selling art, and like, there is an admiration to many people that are doing a lot of things, and yeah, and respect them, and they're probably more vulnerable than you might realize, and you know, so this is some people's way of escaping and being completely reborn, like your Marilyn Monroe's from the time, who moved from a small town and blah blah blah, you know, or whatever star that you pick.
That was one of the best songs ever written. Goodbye, Norma Jean.
Yeah, exactly.
Elton John. It's just, that's a brilliant song. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Like but look at the life she led, because she decided to be reborn through media. Well, sure, it's scary that it's a phone and it might be AI and blah, blah, blah. And those are all very serious things that do need to be considered. But also, like, there is truth somewhere in there, and honor that. You know.
When do you believe 12 Notes for 7 Stories is going to be put to bed?
We are moving very quickly on getting it done by the end of the year. That is my goal. There's 3 songs left. There's a surprise, might be a surprise ending. I'll leave that out. After this, we have Overcoming the Monster, because after you're reborn, you're going to run into probably the same old thing you ran into before, because any of us that have tried to relocate and move our lives, what do you know? You end up doing the same thing again. Yep. So next is Overcoming the Monster, and then we'll have some comedy, and then a maybe surprise ending.
Excellent. Excellent. Roger, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me. This is so much fun.
About this. I am so happily surprised at the quality, the clarity, the built-in humor, and your music skills are second to none.
Thank you.
I know you kept saying mediocre. Let me say this, bullshit.
Thank you. There isn't a moment that I haven't.
Thank you so much for coming in. That absolute pleasure working with you and talking to you. And I hope Nigel, when this is finished, let's come back in the studio.
Yeah.
Let's do part 2.
Oh, that would be great.
Wouldn't that be great?
That'd be terrific.
Excellent. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you once again for joining me here at the table. I'm Nigel Aves, your host. This is Rational Alchemy, though this time it was definitely rational music. Or was it musical alchemy? I'm not quite sure. Anyway, thank you for joining us. Bye for now.
Others will not try or ever learn. Journey eyes wide open. It's all just a voyage and return. You can see the lightning. Come on, hear the thunder calling out. It beckons like a beacon. It sings out like a sine wave, soft and loud. The echoes that are in you, well, some of them will shine.